Hi guys, this is Sai Kumar Kurtuwada. This is my part 5 of address management system. In this video, we will learn how to validate our addresses in our address management system. In my previous videos, I have explained you how to remove an address, how to add an address, and how to create our form groups and the form arrays and the form controls together. To validate our forms, let me quickly jump into Visual Studio Code. So here already we have all this HTML content in our HTML of an app component in my previous video which we have developed, and for better understanding please watch my previous 4 videos before continuing this. Let me show you a demo. So here when we click on add, we can add the addresses, and when we click on remove, we can remove the addresses. So I can add n number of addresses like this and we can remove them at a time. So now our case is I want to validate these fields along with the form fields of an array. So now let me go to the app.ts, and here let me give a validations. So here I'm not using a direct array. Instead of I'm using validators.compose, which will take an array of validations. Let me pass validators.required, and also let me pass validators.min length of 5. So I want to have a minimum length of 5 characters for this name. And also let me give one more validator for this email. So let me go to validators dot required. I want to use required on this, and also I want to use validators dot pattern because we need to have an email pattern. So already I have that regex in my readme file. Let me get that readme file and let me copy this and paste here. So I have the pattern for this validation, and then let me save this. And also we have a group, that is a form group, which will be added into your form array whenever you are clicking on add address button. So here I want to add only few validations, that is validators.compose of I want to add only required validation because the city name can be anything, and also I want to have a validators.compose of validators.required for this state as well as a street name, and array of validators.required. So we have required for this, and I want to have an optional for my landmark. Let me save this. And now for validating this in the UI, let me go to the HTML and let's validate this by using a div and a paragraph. So let me use a paragraph, and inside this paragraph I want to show some error message. Let me show statically this is required is one of the message. Let me save this and go here. Here you can see this is required. So for now let me inspect this and make it a fancy UI. Let me click on this and I want to remove all the margins as 0 pixel, and then I want to add a color as red and font hyphen size as 12 pixel. So now this is my CSS. Let me copy this CSS and go to your app.css, and here what I want to do, just add dot error class, and inside this error class let me paste this, copy this error and paste here inside this class. So save. Now this field will be in required state, but when we have to show this, whenever this field is invalid or touched or dirty, we have to show this particular first name validations. So for that sake, let me create ng if, and I want to get this form control. How to get this form control? We have a form group called as a register address, and we can get the value by using a get method, and we can get the value of that property called as name. And let me use a question mark because this get method we may be returning a control or maybe null, but the compiler doesn't know whether it is returning a null or an control. So let's use question mark, and after that let me use invalid, and I want to get this register address dot invalid, and it should be touched and also it may be dirty. So let me use dirty, and whenever these 3 conditions satisfy or any of the 2 conditions satisfy, then it will come inside and it will print this is required. Let me save this, and here if you go, for the first time it is not showing anything. Let me close this and let me touch and come out. You are getting this is required. And also let me check, you have some other validation, something like validation with min length. So minimum length we have to give 5, 1 2 3 4 5. Now it is valid, but whenever it is 4, this is required. It's a invalid message which we are showing for the user. For that sake, what we can do, we can specify the error messages based on the type of the error. So I can write star ng if whenever this register address dot get of name question mark dot errors question mark dot required. Whenever it is required, then only we want to show this is required. To know about this pattern, I have created already the validation video in this series. Please watch that for better understanding. And now let me create one more paragraph. Let me use the same pattern, but this time instead of required, I'll use min length. And please enter minimum of 5 characters. Let me save this, go back, and now let me click here. You saw this is required. Let me enter 1 2 3 4 5. You are not getting any messages. Why? Because we need to provide min length and this way. Save this. Now click here, 1 2 3 4 5. So whenever you are giving 5, it is not showing any error, but whenever you are giving less than 5, it is showing please enter minimum of 5 characters. So as per our expectation, we are getting this error messages. But here if you see, we are writing a very lengthy code. So every time whatever we want to validate, we have to validate with all these validations. Instead, what I'll do, just go to the TS file and let me write one method called as is field valid. So let me check this field is valid or not. It will receive a form group. Let me give any, and also a form control name which is of string type. So now I want to give this form group, and based on that conditions, what is my condition? Here I have this condition. Whenever this is true, then only I want to validate. Let me copy this, and if my values satisfies this, that means instead of using register, we will be using this dot register, and also this dot register, and this name should be something like dynamic. So let me use this form control name, and here also let me use a form control name. So now here in this case, I have a group which is equal to my register address. So instead of using this, I'll use form group because I want to send that group from my HTML content. So here also we can use form group, and here also let me use form group. And whenever this condition is true, I want to return true, else I want to return false. So let me use this field here. Instead of using all this, let me use this is field valid. I want to send the group for the first time. My group is register address and my form control is a name. Let me pass this name. And also let me create a error validity. So let me use get field error by type. So here also I can pass a group form group with any, and a form control name with string, and let me pass one more thing like type which is of string. This time what we can do, just we can validate in the same way. Copy this and return this one. Instead of using a group, I can use form group. Instead of name, we can use something like a form control name, and instead of required, I can use something like type. So now this will be returning that particular type exists or not. Let me give like this. Now we can use get field error by type and pass here. We can pass three parameters. One is our form, and the second one is my control name, and third one is type. This time our type is required, and the same thing we can use in this, but this time our last parameter will be min length. And let me save this, go here and let me validate. Click here outside, this is required 1 2 3 4 5. It works the same way, but why we have created in this pattern, because we can reuse these methods and we can reduce our HTML content. Let me copy this and paste here for the email. In this case, same register address is a group, and instead of name we need to pass email, email and email. This time we need to pass the pattern. Why? Because if you see the validations, we have only two validations for email. One is required and one is pattern. So I have passed this pattern inside here, and let me change the name of this. So please enter valid email and save this. So here, let me touch this email and come out. You got this email is required, and let me give sai@gmail, even though you are not getting this particular email validation. Why? Because can't read the properties of null of required. That means it is not able to read the properties of that null. Why? Because here we are using a name. Instead of this name, let me pass this form control name. Save this and go to the HTML. Let's check it is valid or not. Yes, we are passing the valid pattern and everything, and go back. Now let me touch this and come out. You got this is required. Let me type something sai@gmail.com, and you didn't got any error. And let me remove this at the rate and invalid pattern. So then it is showing please enter a valid email. And now let me pass .com and let me give Sai Kumar. Click on add address. Now we want to validate city name, state name, street name as well as landmark. In this case, we need to validate an addresses array. Inside that array, we have a number of groups, and inside that group, we have a city name. So now how to validate it? Let me copy that particular error div and paste below. So I have pasted here, and here what we need to pass, we need to pass a group. In our case, the group is something like a control is my group, and let me pass the form control name as city name, and here also let me pass city name, and let me pass this control. Each control indicates one group. You can see here we have shown the value of an id by using control.get of an id.value. This control indicates a group. So I'm passing the group and a city name, and let me save this. Go back, clear it off, and let me give add address. Let me touch here, come out, this field is required. Let me go back and same scenario. Let me copy this and paste at the state name and replace that city name with my state name, and same thing copy and paste here. Let me replace that state name with street name and save this. Go back, clear, and let me touch this, come out, this field is required, Sai Kumar. We are having more than 5 characters, and Sai at the rate. So you have a invalid pattern, and let me give the valid pattern. Let me click on add address. Let me touch this, come out, this field is required, this field is required, and this field is required. And for landmark, we didn't wrote any specification. And now let me enter the value city name and give state name Telangana, street name Bodpal, and landmark if we want to give we can give, otherwise we can ignore. But if you observe one thing, let me remove this. Even this form is valid, we are showing a submit button. That should not be the case. If any of this field is invalid, we should disable this button and we should not do any action further. So for that sake, we can use a property called as disabled. So I'm using a property called as disabled by using a property binding, and let me take the form name. What is my form name? Here if you see, my form name is register address. Inside this form I should not have any invalid data. If we have any invalid data, I want to disable. How to find the invalidity? We can use invalid property on the address form, and on top of this register address we are checking invalid. So if any field is invalid, then this will be disabled. Let me save this, go back, and for the first time it will be disabled, and let me enter Sai Kumar, and now it was enabled. Why? Because we don't have any field inside the addresses. When once you click on add address, you are seeing some addresses where it is invalid, and you are seeing a submit with a disable. So let me give Hyderabad, Telangana, and even it is disabled because the street name is required. Give the board appel, now it is enabled. And now after clicking again with this add address, again it was disabled. Why? Because these fields are invalid. So reactive forms is smart enough to check all the details inside the form if we are giving proper validations in our form groups. And give this boardable. Now it is enabled. Click on submit. You get a name and an email and an address with a valid data. So here the validations will work in this way. And you can remove this. If you remove here, it is fulfilled, and if I remove this particular value, it was disabled. So that is how your disabled and validations will work in Angular forms with along with the form group and form controls. Let me summarize this. So why we have written these two methods? The main part of these two methods is, instead of writing every time all this logic invalid, touched and required and dirty, we have created our own methods which will be validating by receiving a required parameters. In this case, my required parameter is a form group and a form control, form group, form control, and the type. So this is how you can manage and you can use your. Hope we have covered most of the scenarios in our reactive forms. The last one scenario is, for example, if you are going with a edit form, that means already you have added at least two or three addresses into your fields and you want to view that content. So how to do by using reactive forms? We'll discuss in the next upcoming video. Hope you like my explanation. If you like my video, like, share, subscribe to my channel for more updates. Signing off. Thank you.